Today on Florida Sportsman Project Dreamboat. The Catamaran project gets prepared for a test run with its new anchoring system.
What I really like about it, you don't have to worry about it knotting up because this thing spools up and spools down perfectly.
The owner of the 21-foot Paramount project joins Brian for a high-speed sea trial.
The performance is scary fast. It's a little race boat, but at the same time, it's built like a big boat.
FS boating editor George Labonte joins a Dreamboat owner who fully restored and customized a boat that was left for trash.
I want to tell you, the way this boat looked when he got done with it, you couldn't believe it was his first job.
And the 31-foot Contender project nears completion in the rigging bay. All coming up on Florida Sportsman Project Dreamboat.
So I've got this 25 Sea Cat that we've been working on for a real good friend of mine. It's actually a funny thing. He's been asking me to build him this pulpit with a windless for a couple of years now, and I finally got around to it. I didn't have the time, so I brought the boat up to TJ at TNT. He built me a custom pulpit for the front of the boat. I've got the pulpit and the boat back here at the shop now, and it's time for Dave to install the pulpit so Steve can get the windless installed, and I can get this boat back to my buddy. He's got a house over in the Bahamas, and he loves to travel back and forth, and he's been waiting to get his boat back so he can go back to his house over there.
So we get this bow pulpit back from TNT. TJ nailed it. I mean, this thing looks like a factory made it somewhere. I mean, I can't believe this guy made this by hand. It's amazing. They went ahead and the boys prepped everything inside and made the mounting for this thing really easy. It was really 4 bolts. We had to get inside up into the bow of the boat to tighten and secure the bow pulpit TJ made, and I was too damn big to fit in there. So I've been asking Brian for somebody a little bit smaller than me, and Austin fit right in the hole, man. He nailed it. It was perfect. Exactly what I've been asking for.
So now that Dave and Austin got the pulpit installed on the bow of that boat, it's time to install the windlass. This is not your typical windlass. The line always gets tangled and mangled all up. You've got to go up there, remove the knots. It's a real pain in the butt. I've been doing some research, and I found this new windlass with the drum-style retriever system. So I reached out to the company, they sent me one to try out, and I'm actually really excited to see how this thing works.
All right, I got this little cat boat that came in, and one of Brian's friends that lives over in the Bahamas, and he needs a windlass on this boat. Well, you know, I'm looking at it. When I first looked at this windlass, you know, I'm thinking the big old spool up on the bow of the boat, but you know, you can actually mount that spool down inside too, but on this particular boat, we did not have the room. It's sitting up on the deck. It's, you know, to some people it may be an eyesore, but you know, this is a Bahama boat. The guy just wants to be able to anchor up, so just 4 mounting holes, real easy. And then a hole to run the wiring through, which I'm going to put a clamshell on top of that and fill it up with caulk so there's going to be no leakage going down. So I got that installed, and then I've already had, the boat was already pre-wired for a windlass, saved a lot of time. What I really like about it, you don't have to worry about it knotting up because this thing spools up and spools down perfectly.
So Steve installed that windlass in no time, and the boat's just sitting out there like it's waiting for something to be done to it, and it's not looking so great. I grabbed Austin, and I told him it's time to buff the boat out. This thing was looking really rough and really shabby, so I want to clean this thing up and get it running nice for him and make it look like a new boat. So after getting the Sea Cat out on the water to test this new windlass system, it was real windy out and we had an outgoing tide. So I was able to drop the anchor in the boat and actually feel and test the full function of it, and it was incredible. I never left the back of the console. I deployed this thing multiple times and it just never failed. It rolled up and spooled right up on the drum without any guidance whatsoever. Not to mention, Steve attached the anchor and the chain with a giant shackle. I didn't have to have any special anchor road made with a braided line going onto the chain so it would feed inside. This thing is just a simple, easy system. I didn't have to lock the windlass in place. I didn't have to lock the line. I didn't have to worry about anything. I just pressed a button and I let go of the button. Being that my buddy uses his boat like a taxi cab, it's pretty much just another tool of the toolbox. He wants to jump on the boat and everything wants to be 1, 2, 3. Now that he's got this windlass on the bow of the boat, he's gonna be able to get it done that much easier. No one's gonna have to worry about getting up to the bow of that boat anymore. His wife's gonna love him for this.
When we return, the owner of the 21-foot Paramount project drops by MCU to take delivery of his freshly completed Dreamboat. This segment brought to you by Surehold. Clean and simple.
The ultimate bucket list. Let's start with an ergonomic corrosion-free rope handle. Check. You want a caddy to organize your supplies and lift them out with ease. Check. Add in a bucket grate to elevate wash tools out of dirty water. Check. While you're at it, let's include integrated soap measuring cups. Check. How about a base that won't let your bucket scratch, tip, or slip? Check. Top it off with a secure lid that doubles as a place to sit down. Check and check. The Surehold One Bucket System for everything on your bucket list. Visit onebucket.com.
Welcome back to Florida Sportsman Project Dreamboat. Join Brian as he meets with Steve Miller, owner of the 21-foot Paramount, for its maiden voyage.
All right, so we've got this 21 Paramount completely finished. This boat's went from bow to stern. Everything is brand new. We've actually changed the profile and look of the boat. We've altered the center of gravity. We've changed the bottom. We've modified all types of things on this boat. This is gonna be like no other Paramount on the face of the earth. I can't wait for Steve to see it. Now I've got to get Robbie and the guys to get some of those Surehold cleaning products, give this boat a really good bubble bath, and get prepped and ready. Steve's gonna be here anytime, and I can't wait for him to see this boat.
Every little touch on this boat, Brian put so much thought into. Gloss rings around all the hardware, recessed speakers, which sound amazing. I mean, just the way that they point up towards you, the quality of them, I mean, it's great. You know, a custom stainless rigging tube that came into in the cap of the hull. I mean, it's just not something that you see every day. It's a one-off, and the entire boat is just, it's a one-off custom, and it's kind of in a class of its own.
All right, so as soon as we got to the boat ramp, we backed that thing in the water, and we were out of the idle zone in no time. The boat performance was pretty awesome. We didn't get to where we were hoping to be, an 80-mile-an-hour marker, but we're just below that, and the boat hangs in there incredibly. I'm really ecstatic, and I love the ride and performance of it.
The performance is scary fast. Right now, we've got it running about 70 miles an hour, and we've just started playing with props. But also, just the way the boat handles and the way the boat feels, it runs like a big boat. It's extremely solid. It doesn't vibrate, it doesn't shake. You can walk around this thing and pound anything, and it's solid as can be. So it's a little race boat, but at the same time, it's built like a big boat.
One of the details on this boat that really set it off, I felt, were the trim tabs. Not only going with those big electric polished tabs, did it just totally set the transom of the boat off and just give it a look and a feel like the boat's going 100 miles an hour, but the performance aspect. You gotta remember, Steve's got a 36-foot yellowfin. He runs trim all the time and trim tabs. So he's used to playing with all these controls. When he ran it, he thought they performed incredibly.
They're really fast. You know, a lot of boats that I've run that have you just standard trim tabs, it takes forever to get any kind of response, and as soon as you touch the switch, I mean, you feel it. So yeah, they're great.
So after running around for a little while, it was time to pull up to a sandbar and test those power poles. It was my decision to go with those two poles, and I was really glad we did it.
You know, originally, I told Brian that I wanted one, and he said, you know, if you're really going to use this boat to fish, you strongly consider two. So that way, we put them both down, and no matter what the current or the wind's doing, it holds the bow in place where we need to be. And I got to say, it's pretty amazing. I don't know how I'm going to deal with without having them on my big boat. I'm almost going to think about putting them on the yellowfin.
So Steve initially had an idea for a chair in the back of the boat so where he could slide a cooler up under it. But we had all this weight towards the stern after the boat. I wanted to get some more weight to the forward bow. So I reached out to my friends at Angle. I grabbed the perfect size cooler, and it actually matches the boat really nice.
What I originally planned to do was be able to put a 100-gallon round well in the front of the boat, so when we're bait fishing, we can just load it down with bait. It really limited us where we could put drinks or anything like that or have a cooler. So we got this Angle cooler, and they had these awesome mounts that actually put it right in front of the console and keep it in place and lock it down and doesn't move an inch. And it worked out perfectly too because of the angle of the console, the angle with the ingle underneath. It's a very comfortable seat and it's very functional, but when we need the space, it just comes right out. So Versatility was our goal with this boat, and that's really what we're able to do with it. So my wife Danielle and my 2.5-year-old daughter Shay love the boat, and they love to go to the sandbar and they love to fish. My plan with this boat is just use it with my family. The first time my daughter saw this thing, she said it was magical, and it truly is.
So that's a wrap on the 21 Paramount. This boat is 110%, looking beautiful, riding nice, and I can't wait to see Steve out at the sandbar enjoying his boat with his family.
When we return, FS Boating editor George Labonte joins Dreamboat owner Tony Chipolov aboard his custom-built skiff in this week's One Man's Dreamboat segment. This segment brought to you by Infinity by Harman. It's all about the music.
Wake up early on your days off. Go on an adventure. Get out on the water. Here at Ingle, we live for these days. We think you should spend more time in nature. Let us help you enjoy it. For those that care about quality, who want to get out into the world with a confidence that their gear is going to stand up to the day's challenges, Ingle coolers are built for you.
Welcome back to Florida Sportsman Project Dreamboat. Join us for this week's One Man's Dreamboat segment with Florida Sportsman boating editor George Labonte as we feature anglers who have already launched their dream. Florida Sportsman began these features 30 years ago, and the dreams just keep getting better.
This week we go to Singer Island to meet up with Tony Chipolov and his wife to take a look at a boat that I think you're really going to enjoy. Tony had always dreamed about having some type of an old classic boat, but never owning a boat and having zero boat building experience. He didn't really know how he was going to make that happen. Tony's also a big fan of Project Dreamboat, and one day he happened upon an old derelict boat sitting on the ground next to a dumpster, and the first thing that went through his mind is, I think I can do something with this boat. A crazy restoration ensued.
I always kind of had a feeling that I want to rebuild a old classic boat, but I did some numbers and it wasn't something that was applicable in terms of feasibility. Then we got the little inflatable, fully inflatable dinghy, and we took it to the Keys, and in the Keys we fell in love with the, with patch reefs, and it was unbelievable. But you can only take it so far, Then I sold it, and this came along. At the day when I was picking it up, I started picking and poking, and trying to realize, trying to see what kind of, what am I dealing with, basically. And I started ripping the fiberglass because it was just coming off like paper. And I discovered a whole bunch of ants, termites, and anything you think of in terms of dirt and dust, and it was a nightmare, honestly. Probably the most difficult part about this whole build was getting this thing clean and prepared for the actual fun part, At the end of the demo, I literally ended up with just bare hull. It was just really nothing in it. And from that point on, I started thinking and planning.
Now this was going to be a really daunting task for Tony since he had zero boat building experience, but he turned to the internet, and through the help of YouTube videos and some boating forums, he got a lot of advice and dove in head first.
For somebody that don't know, the planning and dwelling on one simple task could be weeks, because you really need to figure it all out on your own, on how to build a stringer, for instance. I've never done it. What I did is I did the forms, and then I poured 8-pound density foam in them forms, and basically then structured them at perfect level with the boat for the flooring. What I have here now is complete overkill in terms of the string, because each stringer is around 2 inches wide, and it's reglassed on 1708 fiberglass twice over, so it's really, really strong, After the flooring was installed, I did the 2-pound density foam. I completely filled it from back to front, so it's like a big surfboard underneath it.
The original configuration of the boat, a runabout type of boat, was not going to work for Tony. This gave him the opportunity to design a boat with a deck layout that was going to work for exactly what he had in mind to use the boat for.
I did the plan on my computer with the drawing of, remeasured everything to the inch, and then I planned it. I had like what I want to have for my tank, for my area where I wanted to walk around with, and the back. So I kind of planned every single inch of it on the computer first, design it. I wanted to see how it's gonna be, how it's gonna lay out first, And then from that point on, I just go ahead and went and do it by the plan that I had, basically.
Now it was time to paint. Tony found us a little bit intimidating at first, but went to the paint store and dove right in, and he fearlessly tackled it just like he did the rest of the boat. You couldn't believe it was his first job.
The paint was crazy, because when I flipped this boat and I started to scrape off all the like 5 or 6 layers of different color of paints on this thing, and some of them paint came off really, really easy. Some I had to grind off completely with the sander, and then basically faired as much as I could all the imperfections, and re-gel coated the whole thing. And you look at it and like, oh my God, this is it. I'm getting closer and closer to where I want to be, So it was a big motivation. That was drive to go forward, to get this thing finished. Throughout this whole build, my dad would pass by and I would just say, I would knock on it and say, it's strong as a rock, And he would look at me, it's probably gonna sink too, just like a rock. So when we first launched this thing, it was unbelievable, because you could see the boat missed water so much, it had this sort of alive feeling to it,
This boat ran great, sat in the water great, looked great. Man, he definitely got lucky when he put this thing in the water, and he got exactly what he wanted.
This was for my specific purpose, to go in the Keys and just have fun on flats. And on a flat day to go out offshore. That's pretty much where I wanted to do it. Bigger boat, possibly in the future, but for now I'm happy with this, and we'll see where it's going to take me.
Tony's boat's dumpster days were behind her, and this clean machine sitting in the water begged for attention. We decided he'd appreciate a gift from our friends at Surehold. For a lot of people out there that might be intimidated by doing this kind of work, if you've ever dreamed about doing a job like this, it can be done. Any man can do it, and Tony sure showed us that you can do a great job on top of everything.
After spending $5,000 on repairing and customizing the hull and $8,900 on an engine, the cost of Tony's Dreamboat comes to a total of approximately $13,900. When we come back, the fiberglass crew at MCU puts the finishing touches on the 19-foot Cuda Craft project and more. This segment brought to you by Pacer Group, marine-grade electrical wire, components, and systems.
For more than 30 years, Pacer Group has been the most trusted provider of wire, cable, and electrical products to the top marine manufacturers. All of our wire and cable is made in the USA to ensure it's the best in the industry. Pacer Group provides the highest quality electrical products to be found in one place. You can order with us at pacergroup.net. Shop online and ship, or pick up your web order within an hour at our Hollywood, Florida location.
Welcome back to Florida Sportsman Project Dreamboat. Join us as the fiberglass work on the Cuda Craft is completed and the 31-foot Contender project undergoes a wiring transplant.
So we've had this Cuda Craft in the shop now for a little while, and there's been a ton of work that's been being done. Roberto got the stringers put back in the boat, the new fuel tank's been installed, we custom built a new cord deck, we added a bilge area with limber holes. There's been a ton of work. Now we've got to get into all this extra custom work the customer wanted from the beginning. One of the first things Ron did when he bought this Cuda Craft was remove the T-top. Ron's a professional fishing guide down in the Florida Keys, and he's been working down there for over 50 years doing this. He knows what he wants. He wants simple, he wants clean, and he doesn't want obstructions all over the boat. Now, one of the things on the console after removing that T-top, there were holes everywhere, and there were things that were mounted on there that he just didn't need or want. So he wanted a real nice clean look. He didn't want the plastic all installed on the dash to cover up the holes. He wanted me to glass all those holes up and repaint the console. After finding all these mistakes that were in this boat and making all the modifications and corrections to them, I really didn't want to stop halfway there. We cut the flange off the bottom of the console where it was previously screwed down so that we could glass it down and make a solid mount to the deck. That's actually going to make everything one piece and give the boat a more solid and complete ride. I love glassing the consoles down because it just makes the boat perform like none other. So once the glass guys get that stuff wrapped up, I'm going to have to get the paint crew to do some gel coat repairs, and then it's off to Steve for some major rigging. But now I just got a huge order in from Pacer Marine Group, and it's time for Steve to get back in that Contender. We've got to rewire all these batteries. I'm installing a new battery charger and all types of new systems to this thing, and I can't wait to see all of these new electronics fired up and working out on the water.
All right, now I'm back on the Contender. I got the engines up there. Now I'm going to start working on the rigging going to the engines. And his old cables, they were spliced. I don't like doing splices and I don't like doing lugs. So I'm going to run new Pacer battery cable all the way from the battery switches back to these engines, all one piece. There's no splices, no corrosion you need to worry about. And choosing the proper gauge. Originally it had 4 gauge. You know, it would be okay, but I went ahead and bumped it up to another size, up to a 2 gauge wire. That way the engines are going to get all the power they need, no hesitation. So I'm going to get each engine run through its rigging tube into the console, get the length that I need, and I'm going to crimp some new battery cable ends on my battery cables, crimp them down, put good heat shrink on them, and that way I got a good power supply directly to the engines with no splicing going on. So I'm going to jump on the trim tabs now. This boat actually has tabs on the boats already, but he had the old style control head, which was not auto retracting. So we're going to go ahead and upgrade him to a Bennett brain and Bennett switches now. Real easy to do. So just follow the instructions. Got it in, got it done, and ready to move on to the next thing on this boat.
So now that I have Steve on the 31 Contender full bore, it's time to get over in the upholstery shop. I gave Vic a custom layout that I came up with. I actually put a lot of thought behind. I've got this awesome carbon fiber finished material that's going to wrap around the outside of the cushion for the boxing. It actually matches up with the hull and the engine color, and it's going to really go good with the third color of the black with the diamond. I can't wait to see all the color combinations come together and installed on these custom combing bolsters that we built. Once all this stuff's installed on the boat, this thing's going to look over the top. I can't wait to see everything wrapped up, installed on the water.
Next week on Florida Sportsman Project Dreamboat. The 19-foot Cuda Craft project received some very custom touches in the rigging bay at MCU. The classic Boston Whaler is outfitted with a set of self-leveling trim tabs. And the 31-foot Contender project nears completion. The filming of Florida Sportsman Project Dreamboat has been shot on location at Marine Customs Unlimited. You dream it, we build it. If you've completed or working on your own Dreamboat, we'd love to hear about it. Email George at george.labonte@outdoorsg.com, and we might just feature your project on the show.